who's a sports CS, is currently appearing before the Senate Committee on Labour and Social Welfare. He was summoned to answer questions over the management of the team that represented Kenya to the Rio Olympics. Let's listen in to the session that's currently taking place.
There was a lot of misunderstanding there. My ministry had given adequate funds to NOC to cater for the team's needs. And at no time did any official of NOC complain that the funds were inadequate. I think in this case we gave them 29 million. 29 million, yes. Part of which was going to be used in the village, and whatever remained is to ensure that the team, after the closure of the Olympic Village, while they're waiting for their flight, is taken care of. On allegations that Team Kenya was booked in a substandard hotel a day before their departure from Rio, should be noted that NOC was still in charge of the team, and well aware that Games Village would be closed on the 24th. And the ministry wishes to state that this credible account that the said accommodation is actually was of reasonable standard. That the slums, favelas which were pictured on social media were those in the vicinity but not in the hotel itself. And where we were staying at the hotel, where I was staying, I think, Bwana Chairman, you came to that hotel. Yes. Behind us was a very big favela. Just directly behind us was a very big favela. And the issue of insecurity, even on Copacabana, was explained to all of us. That you had to walk without your watch, you had to take care of yourself. There was a Portuguese minister who was attacked, and all his valuables were stolen. So I think in Rio, what you saw was, next to a very posh estate was a favela. Next to a posh hotel, behind it will be a semi-permanent settlement called the favelas. Okay. Mr. Chairman, as you're aware, once we came back, all these allegations, once we came back, we acted in certain ways. One, I wrote to the CID to investigate the issue of the disappearance of the kids, among so many other things. And they acted very fast, and I want to thank them for the work they've done. And as we speak now, there are people who've been taken to court on that matter. Secondly, I formed a probe committee. And the work of the probe committee is to just look at various aspects of this issue. And I'll read the terms of reference. And then eventually give us a report that gives us a way forward so that we can prevent the occurrence of this thing and learn from it in the future. And thirdly, Mr. Chairman, I wrote to the IOC seeking a meeting with them so that we can discuss with them face to face about our decision to disband NOC. And although they haven't replied directly to me, there's a letter the IOC wrote to NOC, and in that letter they suggested dialogue, discussion, and also they've invited us to go and visit them and discuss this matter at length. So criteria used in appointing members of the committee investigating allegations against NOC, I wish to make it clear that the Cabinet Secretary, in determining the criteria of appointing the probe team, was guided by the Constitution under Chapter 6, subtitled Responsibilities of Leadership and Integrity, Article 73, 2, A, B, C, D, and E. The terms of reference for the committee, and they have a date until 30th September to get us the report, is one, look at the selection and accreditation of Team Kenya by NOC. Two, look at the provision of relevant sports kits to Team Kenya by NOC. Three, look at the complete list of all those who traveled to Rio, either as officials of NOC or sports administrators who accompanied the team, and the suitability of professional officials, such as doctors, physiotherapists, nutritionists, etc., whose services were available to them. And four, the overall team management matters in terms of accommodation, transport, food, and the general welfare of the sports person. And five, any other matter pertaining to the above. On the issue of the legitimacy of disbanding NOC and transferring its roles to Sports Kenya, Mr. Chairman, this is the report of 2012 Olympics, which was far much worse than what we experienced apparently in Rio. And the results were horrendous because Kenya only won 2 gold medals and became number 28. It's one of our worst Olympics there. But this report was never tabled in Parliament. It was never discussed in Parliament. There are so many allegations before that. There was, I think, Maputo 2011, and so on and so forth. So for decades, the management of sports in this country by sports federations was conducted with near impunity. And this was done under the guise that the federations enjoyed immunity from local or national legislation, since they were answerable to the international federations. That some of these organizations, anytime you mention the Kenyan law, they'll come running with a charter and say, we're independent. They don't want you to ask them anything. So over the years, over decades, no action has been taken. We've been circling around the problem. We've been postponing that problem. And in the case of NOC, Mr. Chairman, history has it that for a long time in international events, teams have been mismanaged by officials. Again, if you read this, you'll see same characters mismanaging the officials. I got this copy just after I came back. NOC has an archaic constitution. They have a constitution which is not aligned to Sports Act. And when we said, go and align your constitution to Sports Act, they came running, they wrote me a letter, and they sent me this book. We're independent, go and read this book. They didn't want to align to Sports Act. And I'll tell you, for instance, one of the things we wanted them to do was to register with the registrar of sports. And many of, some of the federations that have questionable characters are trying to defeat the Sports Act itself. They don't want to be under it because there are things they want to hide. And the status of registration so far of NOC is National Olympic Committee of Kenya picked its registration, form number 480, on the 15th of June 2015, and returned the form on the 9th of July 2015, and they were given an interim certificate number 63 that has been prepared awaiting collection by NOC. An interim certificate has been prepared awaiting collection. They have not collected it. However, the National Olympic Committee officials did not provide the following documents. One, they did not provide NOC constitution in line with Sports Act 2013. So the constitution, they do not provide NOC so that we get new blood in, we get new people in from time to time. And this, the result is, for example, the holding of election that ensures that the same officials remain in office indefinitely. Many reports on mismanagement and dismal performance in major sports events have hardly been acted on, Mr. Chairman, while the same officials plunder and continue with the clandestine way of operation. And this is one of the reasons why the government took the unprecedented action to disband NOC and put in place a team to investigate the matter. It is the Kenyan public who constitute NOC, and therefore should be guided by the laws of the land, which include the Constitution of Kenya, Sports Act, Public Officers Ethics Act, Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act, amongst others. Further, the government pays the bulk of NOC's financial requirements whenever they enter teams for major games. They cannot, therefore, escape public scrutiny. While NOC was preparing for the titled The Executive, a reading of 129.1 and 2, as well as 131, shows that the Cabinet Secretary has executive authority to take action against any sporting organization for the public good. And obviously there's the supremacy of Kenya's constitution and the moral law. It will be advisable to remain legalistic even when the situation or crisis at hand dictated otherwise. We had to act, and the time to act was now, because this cannot go on forever. We had to act, and what are the repercussions of that action? I'm aware, Mr. Chairman, as you very articulately said, Kenya risks being suspended by the IOC. But such risks are always there, whether it is in football, in volleyball, in cycling, in whatever game that you want to deal with. I remember when football had a problem, everyone said disband, or if you disband, we'll be banned. There are so many countries that have disbanded their football organizations. Nigeria, Senegal, so many countries. And they came out of that disbandment stronger, and some of them went to win the African Cup of Nations, for instance. Therefore, there is a risk of being suspended. But the fact that we took the action early means we have a lot of time to make changes, to amend the constitution of NOC, to clean up, to have an election, and make sure that we have a body that is worth the name. And one of the risks is thereby potentially missing out on the attendant benefits of membership of IOC. However, to preclude such suspension, we are pleased to inform you, Mr. Chair, that both Kenya and IOC have been in communication over this issue. And the latest indication is maybe by next week we may find ourselves in Lausanne meeting with IOC. And it is our wish that a meeting between us and IOC will materialize very soon. And meetings with such bodies are quite helpful and us understanding them. So I think it is important that we are going to the IOC to explain our frustrations over this matter, to explain our action over this matter. And among the issues on the card for discussion is the need for a joint roadmap to realign NOC's constitution and to reconstitute NOC into a more inclusive and dynamic sports organization. There are accusations there, and I think in today's paper you'll see, that there are some federations who are kicked out over years. Although they provide teams to the Olympic, they've been kicked out by NOC because they are not friendly or they are against the setup. What we want is a more inclusive NOC, but also a more transparent NOC. Court cases, already 4 NOC officials, Mr. Chairman, have appeared in court in connection to the alleged Rio scandal, and they are currently out on bond. NOC Chairman, Dr. Kipchoge Keino, on September 5th, filed a case challenging the authority of the Cabinet Secretary to disband NOC. It's in court. Since these matters are in court, the Ministry will not wish to delve deeper. Final remarks. These problems, Mr. Chairman, every time they occur, they're emotive, they're disappointing, they are concerning. But these problems have been with us here before even some of us came into office. And we felt the time is now for us to deal with them. And for a long time, sports federations in this country have managed to operate, some of them, undercover, utilizing an apparent anomaly in their respective constitutions. They've been acting with impunity while citing autonomy that allows them to contravene Kenyan laws. And since the government has the overall coordination of sports, which includes policy guidance, regulations, security, and funding, it is important that sports federations be held accountable to the public in accordance with our constitution. Our approach to resolving the alleged mismanagement of the team is not to antagonize IOC, but rather a diplomatic initiative with IOC and the Kenyan government. Yes, Mheshimiwa, you raised the issue of where the buck stops. I know, and I think at the steering committee we shared responsibility between us and NOC. I think the steering committee was a very important clearinghouse there. And some of the responsibilities we shared, for instance, on issues of ticketing, the issues of the allowances, ticketing and allowances, those are our major responsibility. And this, I think we've completed that very well. On the bigger issue of accreditation, I think I've talked about it. Accreditation, we have nothing to do with it, completely. We have no control over accreditation. And apparently accreditation is given as a quota to every country. And again, issues of accommodation is entirely handled by NOC, and you'll see the correspondence here all the money for accommodation was given to NOC way in advance. It was sent to their account. But here I was with some senior officers not having accommodation, stranded at my hotel. I had to sort it out. I had to make decisions that eventually ensured that they had a place to stay. A lot of support for our teams, which we tried very much to coordinate. I think we coordinated for boxing, yes, for athletics, and so on and so forth. These places were very far apart. The rugby stadium was so far away that we had to walk for 5 kilometers because it was in a military barracks. The athletic stadium was very far away from the boxing venue, for instance. So it was always very difficult to coordinate. But can we better our coordination? Yes, we can. Were there failings in the coordination? Yes, there were, and we need to strengthen that. The issue of the ship will be talked about by my colleague here. And Honorable Gwendo, it's not about pointing fingers. It's not about Wario or anything else. It is about the future of sports in this country. And the reason why I had to act that way is not unique to me. Reports are here, pointing at the same problem. Go back many years later, the same problem has been persisting. At least I've taken action. And I'm trying to understand this issue. I'm trying to sort it out. Nobody has sorted it out all these years. I'm not pointing fingers. That's why I have a probe committee in place. CID have found things. That is not pointing fingers. The kids that are missing have been found. People have been taken to court. That's not pointing fingers. I know my responsibility, and I take my responsibility very seriously. But in this case, NOC has messed us yet again. It's not the first time. Thank you very much.